that Manmohan Singh, then Union Minister of Finance, closed one of the most famous budget speeches in Indian history on July 24, 1991. The life of Indians would never be the same. Since the economic liberalisation in 1991, India has gradually opened up its economy, moving away from the protectionist policies of the past. There was a transformation from a state-led economy to a market-led economy. Fast forward to 2018, and India is the world's fastest growing large economy and the third largest contributor to global economic growth.
India and Australia have enjoyed strategic partnership since 2009. India is Australia's fifth largest export market and 10th largest trading partner overall. However, this is still leave opportunities for close economic partnership going forward. With both governments recognizing the future opportunities across a broad range of areas, Australia has now put India at the front of its international partnership. Today we will review several economic indicators, such as gross domestic product, trade, including balance of trade and foreign direct investment, labor and business, to demonstrate the potential of India as a strategic partner to Australia.
First, let's have a look at gross domestic product, or for short GDP, and in particular the GDP annual growth rate. India's steps towards liberalisation and openness in the 1980s, which accelerated in the 1990s, saw India's GDP growth rise from an average annual rate of less than 3% in the 1970s to over 7% in recent years. In that time, India's real GDP per capita has increased five-fold. As a result, millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. Development indicators such as infant mortality and life expectancy have steadily improved. These trends have contributed to the creation of a substantial consumer class. When analysing GDP composition by end use, household consumption accounts for 60% of India's GDP. This is an important source for growth in the Indian economy. When analysing GDP composition by sector, the most important and the fastest growing sector of Indian economy are the services sector, which accounts for 60% of GDP. Interestingly, agriculture employs more than 50% of the labour force, yet only contribute around 12% of the output of GDP, with a 28% contribution from industry rounding out the rest. India is projected to enjoy an average of around 6 to 8% annual growth over the next 2 decades. As population growth continues to slow, improved productivity will remain the critical driver of GDP growth.
Next, let us have a closer look at how the annual GDP growth rate of India compared to that of Australia. From 1951 to 2018, GDP annual growth rate in India averaged around 6% compared to that of Australia at around 3.5% during the same period. Slower growth is to be expected in more advanced economies, such as Australia, compared to that of emerging economies, such as India. As in India, Australia's economy is dominated by the services sector that contribute up to 65% of the total GDP. Yet Australia's economic success, as a major exporter of commodities, has in recent years been based on the mining sector contributing 13.5% of GDP and agriculture at 2% of GDP. Other industries include manufacturing and construction at 11% and 9.5%. Looking towards the future, the global economy is likely to be increasingly weighted towards Asia, as India and China and the other ASEAN economies catch up to slower growing advanced economies such as Australia and the United States. India's share of the global economy will likely increase from 7% in 2016 to around 13% by 2035, making it one of the major poles of global economic power and on par with the United States. Following on to our discussion on trade. Prior to opening up the economy in 1991, import tariffs insulated the Indian domestic industries from competition, discouraging innovation. Production costs remained high while technological development remained low. However, since 1991, trade in goods and services as a percentage of GDP rose from around 15.7% in 1990 to almost 40% in 2016, which is around the same level as in Australia, and with imports expanding to, at that stage, more than 1/5 of the GDP. Per capita income rose more in the last 18 years of the 21st century than during the entire 20th century. India has been recording sustained trade deficits since 1980, mainly due to strong imports growth. For the year of 2018 in India, exports rose 9.8% to $303 billion, while imports were up around 19.6% at $460 billion. This resulted in a trade deficit of around $156.8 billion against the $108.5 billion in the financial year 2017.
In 2017, India's top 3 merchandise export destinations were the US, the United Arab Emirates, and Hong Kong, with Australia coming in 22nd, representing about 1.5% of exports. Major import sources were China, the US, and the United Arab Emirates, with Australia representing 3% of imports. Next, we move on to our discussion on foreign direct investment. The Indian government generally adopts a welcoming attitude towards foreign direct investment and is seeking to push through a series of economic reform measures across sectors. Over the last decade, India has been remarkably successful in increasing the stock of inwards foreign direct investment. Stocks have grown nearly 19% per year over the past 20 years. These trends have contributed to India attracting investment from 155 countries between April 2000 and March 2017, across multiple sectors, but particularly in services, telecommunication and IT. Invest India, India's investment promotion agency, seeks to promote and facilitate inward and outward direct investment and provide policy inputs into foreign direct investment settings. Now, despite these improvements, real challenges remain in converting potential foreign direct investment in India into investment on the ground and also into the sectors in which it is needed. 3 of the most limiting factors include complete closure of some of the sectors to foreign direct investments, such as legal and accounting services, equity screening and personnel restrictions on foreign investors, and India's challenging business environment, resulting in a shortage of projects with commercial appeal, even in those sectors that are completely open to investment. Of course, this is also compounded, often by the unpredictable government intervention.
Labor markets. Labor market is also called job market, in which its function is the demand and supply for labor. It is one of the important indicators for every economy. At the macro level, labor market include national and international market, productivity, employment rate, unemployment rate, or total income. While in the micro level, labor market is how an organization works with its employees, such as working hours, wage, salary, and benefits. India. With the population of 1.3 billion, India is the second largest population after China, and its population has been increasing around 1.3 every year. 1/3 of population in India now is under 15, and only 5% of its population is over 65. In other words, the majority of people in India is working age, and it is expected to increase. There are about 250 million employees to join the labor force from 2005 to 2025. Besides, Indian employers have a huge advantage because of their English ability and high skills. Moreover, on-the-job learning run by the massive private companies and international organizations supports to develop the skills and knowledge of its employers. Furthermore, the structure of employment in India is engaged in 3 main industries: agriculture, service and manufacturing. It is shown that the majority of Indian employment rate engage in agriculture, following their service with 70% and manufacturing with 16%. But India still has the large number of scientists and technical engineers with the third place. The trending economics demonstrate that from 2008 to 2018, India's unemployment rate was fluctuated, but the trend is downward. Its rate dropped from 4.12% in 2008 to 3.53% in 2018. Australia. The structure of employment in Australia includes 6 main industries: healthcare, professional, scientific and technical service, mining and education and training show the increasing trend while manufacturing decreases gradually in the 2007 to 2012 period. From 2008 to 2018, the unemployment rate in Australia fluctuated. The highest unemployment rate was recorded in 2015 with 6.5% and in 2008. This showed the lowest unemployment with 4%. Among states in Australia, the lowest unemployment rate is showed in Australia Capital Territory with 3.7% in July and August 2018. Besides, Queensland have the highest unemployment rate with 6.3%. Noticeably, in 2011, the biggest amount of unemployment people were from 15 to 24 years. And every 1 out of 5 unemployment was from 45 to 64 years old. Roughly equal proportions of unemployment women as the unemployment men.
Among all of components in the labor factor, unemployment rate is one of the most important factor and should be considered seriously. Unemployment rate is also the most common used factor in the labor market. It is because of the loss of welfare of unemployment. In other words, one person not employed cannot create the productivity, but taking the welfare out of economic. It is noticeable that in Australia, the young unemployment contributed 41% of the total unemployment rate. Cavallo highlighted that education institutions involve more in enrolling process than understand the needs jobs in the Australian market. In other words, the institution don't focus on the particular areas which increase the value of specific subject. On contrast, they are trying to bring as many students as possible to study with them. Also, Australian education organizations don't have a good connection to the public and the government to improve the study system, and all of them based on the commercial perspectives. As the result, the youth in Australia lack experience skills to adopt with the requirement from the market. Besides, potential students concerned to pay a debt for study without a future perspective to find better position. So, most of them work as part-time, with 25.7% in 2017. India has government education institution where they follow research about the needs in the workforce market. The government tried to fill up the gap in demand of job market. As a result of this comparing, it is possible to decrease Australian unemployment by subsidizing in research of investigation outcome job market. From then, the government can cooperate with education institutions to focus on the occupations difficult to fill. Besides, the government build the trust of people and avoid the over-unemployment areas in the country. Or even, government or a company can organize on job learning to minimize the gap between theory and practice of young employer.
Business. India is the biggest global developing market with continuously improving business in different sectors. Indian government supports foreign direct investment with creating reform. Also, a lot of business sectors allow to invest without a government permission. Therefore, Australians should understand business environment and culture of country for improving business sector and relationship within this country. Doing business. India has a low doing business index. It is ranked 100 among 190 economies, when Australian is ranked 14 in 2017. The low in doing business index creates a healthy business for the small and medium enterprises. However, there are still opportunities to do business across the areas and locations in India. If Australian companies are willing to do foreign business in India, they should determine right data and receive advice from experts for investing. Australian companies can be ideal partner for doing business and add value by unique business environment. Business culture and structure. Most of large Indian corporations is family owned. In 2015, 50 companies in the top of 20 business group and more than half Indian listed companies are owned by family. Therefore, there are more risks for the commercial relationships to work with Indian companies compared with Australian listed companies. Indian literacy. Indian literacy gives ability for Australian businesses to improve partnership, understand clearly Indian government decision making, and increasing commercial future by themselves. It has also helped Australian firms to support in long-term strategy firms of Indian organizations. In fact, Australian linked business determines 67% of ICX 200 board members don't have experience and 55% don't have knowledge in Asian market. Business Confidence Index. Business Confidence Index in India 59.7, which is higher than Australian 12 in the fourth quarter of 2017. Business confidence in India and Australian companies have fluctuated from 2014 to 2018, but the trend for the Indian company index is upward, while for the Australian index it is downward. Overall, Business Confidence Index in India has always been higher than in Australia. In India, Business Confidence Index is called based on the performance of economy, response, industry, and firm from 300 different business areas, while Australian Confidence Index based on the phone questionnaire about profit, trading, and employment, around 600 non-agricultural firms. In 2014, the Indian government started the program Make in India, which is supports manufacturing industry. The government also invested over $5 billion for startup section in 2015 and got third place youngest country in the world with over 4,200 startups, including 1,200 technology startups. These factors and other the engine of the Business Confidence Index and improve health of businesses.
Australian government should build strong relationship with businesses in India to improve the ecosystem of exporter, education system, tech startups, professional advisor, investors, so on. Also, Australian government helped to improve Indian literacy in Indian companies and involve more in creating relationships and value in Indian bureaucracy. Furthermore, Australians should discuss about public policy reform by asking advice from the Secretary of the Department of Prime Minister and cabinets and Indian counterparts to gain experience in the public sector of India. Finally, Australia can improve Business Confidence Index by develop new business and invest money in startups to increase its workforce.